Hi, everybody. As Taylor said, I'm Harvey Silverman. I'm the host of NGCOA's Golf Business Live Tech Talks. And I'm here with Parker Cohn and his service dog, Henry. We're going to interview Parker, but we will interview Henry at the end of the session. So, Parker, this is interesting. This is a different technological part of the business that I wasn't familiar with until a couple of years ago. I usually am writing and talking about things like golf management systems and tee times and things like that. So I met Parker a couple of years ago at a water summit. We're both from California. We were in the middle of this big drought. We had this big water summit, and I ended up sitting next to Parker, and he's telling me what he does. And I said, and he told me that he worked for the San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park in San Francisco, and what he did with this system that keeps the field the best in the major leagues. And I had thought about the fact that the Giants, if you've ever been to Oracle Park, they don't do all the striping and crazy stuff that other ballparks do. It's just a beautiful expanse of green in the outfield. But they do a lot of other events when the team isn't home. And every year there'd be this big yellow stain out in center field from where they had a stage for a concert. Grass would turn yellow. So this one year, right before I met Parker, I went to the ballpark, and there was no stain. And I thought, geez, I wonder if they stopped doing events here. And then when I met Parker, he said, no, that's because my system keeps the turf healthier because I'm treating the dirt. So we're going to talk about the dirt. The dirt that is your most underutilized but most valuable asset in a golf course, and how Parker's system and engineering and technology can keep that dirt much healthier than you think it is now. Parker is a mechanical engineering by education. He likes to call himself the soil surgeon. And by the way, my kid said, Dad, stop using paper. Put your notes on a phone and scroll through it. It's a lot easier that way. So the engineering that he's applying to making dirt healthier is by diagnosing, prescribing, and improving the health of the soil. So, Parker, tell us a little bit first about what got you into, from mechanical engineering, looking at the quality or the lack of quality in dirt, whether it's on golf courses or farms or other places where you're working.
All right. Everybody hear me? So ultimately, from mechanical engineering to agronomy is a huge jump. It's a very different industry. It's a very different training, but I'm passionate about solving problems, and I really want to solve a big problem with my career. I want to solve multiple big problems with my career. So when we look at golf, when we look at, Harvey mentioned Oracle Park, where the Giants play, the value that's in the soil, simply to get the soil to work for you rather than working against you. When we have rising costs, rising labor, rising management, we're all familiar with the costs of operating a golf course. To be able to regenerate that soil, help it work for you, use less inputs, use less water, have a higher quality product at the end of the day, performs better. What's not to love about that, right? Ultimately, the economic value of the soil beneath your feet that is unrealized can transform your operation. And we've been able to prove that, with every project that we bring on. And so that being the economics of operating a golf course, a big problem, right? To be able to approach that and solve that using the mechanical engineering background that I have has been really rewarding.
So I'd like to, I generally refer to what you do as biological technology. And in talking to the grounds crew director at Oracle Park in San Francisco, he told me about how the Giants had been able, using his system, save 30% on water, but 75% on fertilizer, fungicides, pesticides, all that stuff. Every year the Giants get this award from Major League Baseball for the most sustainable field in baseball. So learning a little bit more about this biological aspect of it, what is it that, first, the testing process. What are you looking at? What are you testing? How are you analyzing the quality or the lack of quality in the dirt?
Great question, and where to start. So soil has three properties: physical, chemical, and biological. It's kind of like going to the doctor for your annual checkup. You'll go in, they'll take your temperature, they'll take your blood pressure. They're looking for indicators that are going to give them an idea of what your health is. They'll make you step on a scale. So I essentially do that process with the soil using a bunch of stainless steel tools. That's where the soil surgeon kind of comes from. But to figure out what the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the soil are can help me identify where the opportunities for improvement are. So for instance, if it's compaction that leads to, a lack of density, runoff, inefficient watering, ineffective fertilization, because the soil is so hard, there's bacteria that there's a solution that we can specifically design to resolve or remediate that problem. So there's no silver bullet. So you have to identify what the problem is before you start trying to solve it. Because if you don't understand the problem or what you're trying to solve, how do you expect, if you can't measure it, if you're not measuring, how can you expect to have a solution that's going to come out and produce you a return, that's going to solve that problem and produce a return on investment for you as an operator? So we start there.
You told me that you recently tested dirt at a golf course that you told me has the most dead dirt you've ever measured. What makes dirt dead? What is it about the dirt, and how did it get that way at a golf course?
So 3 things cause soil to die is an extreme word, but the soil biology has biodiversity as well as a population. So there's 2 components we're primarily looking at. And the 3 things that we do at scale that harm soil biology is monocrop. We grow grass everywhere. It's all grass. We might have some native areas and stuff, but what you see is what you get from a biodiversity perspective. If you're looking at fields of, green grass at golf course, we are monocropping, and that monocrop is representative of the biodiversity that's in the soil over time. We also fertilize, which synthetic forms of nitrogen, ammonia-based nitrogen decreases the health of the soil, the population, and the biodiversity over time. And that's been very well known and documented, and one of the things that drives the organic movement. And then third is, let's call it overuse of a facility, right? We got 300 rounds of golf being played, all putting the ball into one hole. We move that hole around to disperse the compaction, but what about the carts, right? We overuse our facilities and push them to the limit of what they can handle from a rounds perspective, and they experience a significant amount of compaction. So those 3 things create a biological opportunity for us to come in and solve those problems.
So again, is dead dirt created by the typical methods of maintaining the turf above the dirt in terms of fertilizer, aeration, fungicides, pesticides, things like that? Is that what is, as it eventually has got to go somewhere, it's going to go down into the dirt? Is that what literally kills the dirt?
Yeah, so you're getting into a little bit more complexity of the chemical deterioration of the biology of the soil, which is fungicides, herbicides, pesticides, all designed to kill undesirable bacteria that produce disease pressure on surfaces, right? But those chemicals also deplete the healthy biome as well. So when you have a situation where you're using pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides repeatedly over and over and over decades, you're going to deplete the overall population of the soil substantially. So what we see as more time goes on and diseases develop and evolve is a good example is POA, the plant. We've overused our herbicides on POA, and now POA is resistant to just about everything on the market, and it's going to be resilient to the chemicals that are now being likely overused for it. So
who has POA on their courses? Okay.
So as POA has adapted and evolved to overcome the chemicals, so does the disease that we're treating with the pesticides. Very similar, while depleting the immune system and the healthy bacteria in the soil.
Okay, so let's talk about how you solve this. And I look at it as really two layers of technology. You have the biological technology of what you create to feed the dirt, and then the system itself, the mechanical system itself that is dispersing that across a golf course. What could a golf course operator expect on how that is set up and how it works?
So the first is identifying what biology is going to move the needle for your property, for the problems that you're facing, the primary problems. So we then, how many people are familiar with like making sourdough or like fermentation of maybe beer, kombucha, bread, sourdough? We then formulate the product that's similar to a sourdough starter, combine that with water, replicates every 15 minutes for 7-10 days, and then we start making applications through the irrigation system. So when your pump turns on, we have an injection pump that turns on that injects the live active bacteria that you need in your soil on your golf course everywhere the sprinklers cover.
So it's dispersed topically from the irrigation system, but where is that coming from? What is the device or devices that you install that connects to the irrigation system? Give us a picture of what that looks like and where it would have to go.
Okay, so you typically see, and maybe show of hands, folks that are familiar with fertigation, like injecting chemicals or injecting nitrogen sources into the water to reduce labor so you don't have to go out and spread it. Not very familiar. We'll start from the top. So we'll have a large tank next to the irrigation system, next to where the pump station is typically. And from there, we will plumb up a injection pump, put an injection quill in the irrigation system, and when the pump turns on to pump water on, say, the greens, now our pump turns on and injects biology into the irrigation system, so it goes everywhere that water's going. It'll go through that whole cycle. It'll go through the greens, the fairways, the roughs, the range, the practice facilities. And then when the pump turns off, the main pump, the irrigation pump, our pump turns off as well. So we have a control system. That's the kind of where the engineering side touches it. But we have a large tank that functions as a fermentation tank, kind of like brewing beer. You go into a brewery, you see these big stainless tanks where they brew beer. So we have, similar big plastic tanks where we ferment biology for your property. And then we maintain the health of that, controlling the temperature, controlling the oxygen, controlling the development and replication of that as you would in a microbrewery. So we make sure that we're putting out mature, viable product with every irrigation cycle that we inject into.
So then what can a golf course operator expect in sustainability? I know the story of Oracle Park, San Francisco Giants ballpark, and the sustainability that they've been able to achieve. First of all, when you're measuring where this has to go, do you find that there's areas of the course that are healthy that don't need this, or is it like a total dispersion across the entire irrigation system as that irrigation system goes on day after day after day?
So that's a good question. So there's a large percentage of problems that are caused by the irrigation water itself. For instance, reclaimed water. So we're going to see in reclaimed water and golf courses that are running reclaimed water, we're going to see salt and bicarbonate issues pretty much wall to wall because of that. We see such an economy of scale of injecting into the irrigation system and using the sprinklers rather than using labor and equipment and fuel to spread that the economy of scale of when we're injecting 60,000 to 100,000 gallons a year through the injection system. That's over a million pounds of live active bacteria being applied to your golf course. The efficacy of injecting, that the bacteria is getting into the soil if you're injecting through the irrigation system and you're putting out water, because where the water's not getting, the grass isn't going to look good, right? So if we if we are getting water to places across the entire golf course, injecting our product is going to get there, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So I know a couple of your case histories, which are fascinating because of the savings, not just in fertilizer, fungicides, pesticides, and so on, but also water savings, which is becoming more and more important in parts of the country, particularly where we are in California in the Southwest. Anybody here from Arizona, Utah, that area that's going to have water issues coming up at the end of the year? Okay, so you guys are all good. You have wells, you have lakes, you have lots of rain. Good for you, but there's still issues involved with that as well. But the two case histories I want you to talk about, certainly most everybody here has heard of Pasatiempo Golf Club in Santa Cruz and Brentwood Country Club in Los Angeles. So which one do you want to start with? Either one.
Let's start with Pasatiempo.
All right.
So Pasatiempo, 90-year-old Alistair McKenzie, original push-up greens, right? They were looking at a $10 million renovation that had to pass vote. Pasatiempo is the oldest HOA in the country. There's 260-some folks that had to vote on this, but the superintendent there wanted to make sure that he had an ace in the hole in case that $10 million renovation budget didn't pass, right? And so we effectively restored 90-year-old push-up greens at Pasatiempo in one growing season. They have a water treatment facility on site where they inject sodium hyperchloride, essentially to kill anything that's living in the water, which creates downstream effects and salt pressures on, POA greens, especially sensitive to salt water, to chloride. So we designed in tandem with the superintendent there, we designed a program to run for a season to be the ace in the hole in the case that the $10 million green renovation didn't get approved, that we had a solution that we could roll out across the whole golf course to keep those greens alive and make sure that they didn't lose their Western Intercollegiate tournament that they host every year.
And then Brentwood Country Club in Los Angeles had issues both with water, the availability of it and the cost of water, along with some turf issues that they needed to solve. Tell us a little bit more about how that process began, what the result was, and ultimately that big check that you were able to present from their water savings.
So Brentwood originally hired me to reduce the compaction in the roughs. So think back COVID, right? We went from 2 carts going around the golf course for a foursome to 5 carts going around the golf course. So they had extremely compacted roughs, kikuyu grass growing laterally, not growing vertically, not good lies, not something you'd want to hit the golf ball off. A lot of member complaints about density and the roughs not holding the ball. So compaction was the main problem. We designed the program around compaction and injected over the course of a year. We had displaced, as estimated by their superintendent, $150,000 a year in aerification costs just on the roughs because they were going around year-round aerifying the roughs, which members don't really like the course being aerified, and it was a lot of money to not solve a problem. So we resolved that problem with biology regenerating the soil across the whole property. So there were benefits in the fairways, benefits in the tees, benefits in the roughs. But the primary component of reducing compaction is, what does water do on compacted soils? It runs off, or it puddles up and evaporates, right? So the water savings, when you reduce the compaction across the majority of the golf course, 60 some acres of the rough, and now the water's not running off and the water's not evaporating, the water's going into the soil, we were able to reduce the water use by 40% at Brentwood by reducing the compaction in the roughs and regenerating the soil across the property. That 40% savings is 22 million gallons a year in one of the areas that spends, some of the highest water rates in the country. Turns out it's somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000 a year at current rates of water savings. I applied for a utility incentive in tandem with, because I knew that when we reduce the compaction, we're going to have water savings. So I processed a utility incentive on behalf of Brentwood that for two main reasons. One, I wanted to have third-party, independent, validated, right? We say, what is the highest level of validation you can get from, say, word of mouth to maybe university research? And I would argue that a cold, hard check from your water provider is even better than that. So the water district between Metropolitan and LADWP issued a $311,000 incentive for the water that we saved. So they're seeing, between the annual water savings and the incentive check, you're up $750,000 of value on a single line item in 1 year.
Wow, and how are the members feeling about the condition of the golf course? I mean, ultimately, that's the measure that has to be met. What are the members saying about the conditions?
Well, the roughs became too hard. So we had
got thicker,
too
longer?
hard, thicker.
Yeah.
So we had to end up mowing the roughs a little shorter to find a happy ground for the members. But ultimately, the conditions improved across the golf course. The entire golf course conditions improved while using substantially less inputs. We didn't put out a wall-to-wall fertilizer app in, I believe, 28 months by regenerating the soil and, creating conditions that we're mining more nitrogen that was locked up in the soil from, 60, 70 years of making applications, as well as being more efficient with everything we put out from now forward.
So in a couple of weeks, the other major golf organization is going to be here, the GCSAA, and their show and convention. If you had an audience here full of superintendents, and we've got all of the chemical and fertilizer and everybody else surrounding us with their booths, and they're trying to sell their product, what would you tell the superintendents today who are more apt to follow years-long procedures, maybe not realizing what they're doing to the dirt beneath the grass? What's that message that they need to hear from you?
I think the message is this is a collaborative industry, and the customer is the golf course operators and the owners. And so when we have rising costs, our customers feel that, right? We need to provide our customer with the best product possible at the best rate possible for the industry, for the whole industry, right? This is not one displaces for the other. I'm not up here saying that, hire me and you'll never buy another pound of fertilizer, because that's not true. I'm here to help with the efficiency of the operation, to reduce inputs to a manageable, not really here to reduce inputs overall, here to make your golf course better and to make you more money. And so I think if my industry peers are here with me, I think we'd all align on that. Is we got to work together to provide that end product to our customer that makes them money, helps the industry, gets more people involved in the game, and overall, makes golf a better sport.
How do people get in touch with you? What's the website, Parker?
My website is prmsoil.com, and again, that's prmsoil.com. And there's contact page. You can link up my information, find my email, find a little more information about what we do across our various markets that we support. Some case studies you can download from the website about golf courses, and hopefully you can find some information there.
We have any questions? We got a couple more minutes left in our segment. Any questions? Anybody with turf issues? Anybody thinking, boy, how do I save money on water or fertilizer or things like that? Right here. Do we have a mic? Hold on.
The example.
Go ahead.
The example you used.
Go ahead.
The example you used for Brentwood. Was that one season that you were able to turn that around and make those changes? How long does it typically take?
Yeah, so Brentwood in particular, that was one season, resulted in those results, and we've repeated those results year after year now, 3 years running.
Anybody else? Gaylord?
Our superintendent uses a product he calls Gary's Green. Have you heard of it, and what is it?
Yeah, Gary's Green, Gary Grigg, believe met him in Idaho a few years ago. Gary's got a line of fertilizer products that, you know, I see them in agronomy programs all over. So as far as the product, I haven't used it personally, but I do see it in a lot of budgets, and I see a lot of positive feedback from it from the agronomy teams.
Anybody else? Okay, before we're done, we got to interview Henry. Henry, what do you think of the show, Henry?
That's an
He's
instruction.
stunned. He's absolutely stunned. Except, yeah, he's looking for a place to pee. So anyway, Henry, thanks. Parker, thank you very much for being here with Henry. Henry, dude, you're a good boy. By the way, Parker found Henry at 7 pounds underneath a barn at one of the farms that he was working at and rescued him. He's now become his very well-trained service dog. And if you get a chance to say hello to Henry, please do. Parker, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Harvey.